Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Happy New Year guys, and I hope you all had an amazing 2024. Moving into 2025, I wish nothing but success for all of you. Now in today's video, we are going to be creating an Iman Gadzhi style thumbnail, in which case we have two different social media icons next to a subject, and I'm going to show you how to recreate the 3D effect. A lot of people actually struggle with this, so I'm going to break it down and simplify it for you all so that you can all go ahead and create the exact same result. And guys, before we begin, there's just one quick announcement that I have to make, and that is that I will be starting a new series in which I'm going to be reviewing my subscribers' thumbnails. So if you want to get your thumbnail reviewed, just send me a message on Instagram, just DM me a screenshot of your thumbnail that you want to be reviewed, and I'll be reviewing your thumbnail on this YouTube channel. Now, I just announced this yesterday and I've already got an influx of people sending me their thumbnails. So guys, if you want your thumbnail to get reviewed, you're gonna need to hurry up, because with the amount that I've been sent already, guys, I'm not Superman. I'm not going to be able to get through them all in one episode. I'll be doing the reviews on a first come first serve basis, so if you aren't featured in the next video, you will be added to the queue, and I'll make sure that you hold your spot in the queue. With that being said, let's get straight into the video. So let's click on new file, and we are going to keep the width to 1920, height 1080, keep all the other options the same, and click create. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to start focusing from the get-go on the icons. So let's focus on creating that 3D effect. Now guys, you can pick any social media icons you want. You don't even need to pick a social media icon. Just make sure that you have the general app shape. Now just to make things visible and easy for you to see, I'm just going to quickly create a gray layer. So click on solid color, and let's just make this a sort of medium gray, like so. Click OK. And now guys, we are going to focus on creating the 3D effect. So what I have right here guys is an Instagram icon and a TikTok icon, and I'll be using these two for this video. So what I'm going to do is just highlight both of these layers, and I will just bring them into my document like so. Now guys, you want to make sure that these icons are the exact same size, and that will just help you when it comes to scaling things proportionately. Now I'm just going to quickly rename these to Instagram and TikTok like so. So we're just keeping organized. I'm also going to group these layers, so let's just do that real quick. So just press the Command or Control G whilst having the layers selected, and then just type TikTok once again, so TikTok, and just do the same for Instagram. So Command or Control G, and then just type in Instagram, and you'll see how this makes things easier to navigate in just a moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hide the TikTok group, and we are going to focus first on the Instagram icon. Now in Photoshop, there's no real good way of just simply clicking a button and creating a 3D icon. So we're going to need to take the initiative, and what we will be doing is creating the illusion of a 3D icon. Now if you have Adobe After Effects, creating a 3D icon is pretty simple. You would just need to create it in that app and export it into Photoshop, and that's a really good way of doing it, and that's how most people actually do professional 3D designs. But what I'm going to show you is how you can recreate a very similar effect in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press Command or Control T, and I'm just going to resize this to make this a little smaller, to something like this for now. Make sure that you hold down Alt and Shift whilst you're doing it in order to scale without altering the shape. Okay, once we have this, I'm now going to press Command or Control R to bring out the ruler, and we are going to just create some vertical guides. So one right here on the edge, and one right here like so. Let me just zoom in to see if I've got it correct. Yeah, we can bring this lower a little bit and check right here. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, now the reason why I'm doing this is because when we come to the TikTok logo, we'll have a really good idea of the scale so that we can create the exact same result. Now I'm just going to press Command or Control semicolon in order to hide the guides, and we are now going to create a duplicate of this icon. So what we can do is just simply hold down Alt or Option, click on the icon, then hold Shift and drag like so, and that just creates a duplicate. Let's then go to the copy layer and just put it behind the original like so, and we can just call this Instagram behind, just so that we know what we're working with. Instagram behind. What we now need to do is adjust the brightness level of the layer behind, and we can do this very easily simply by just creating a curves layer. So let's go to the adjustment layers and click on curves like so. Then whilst holding down Alt or Option, click in between the two layers to create a clipping mask, and now let's just darken the icon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the top right corner, and I'm going to click on this point and drag it down like so. So as you can see, the icon now is becoming darker. So something like this should be fine. Something just relatively noticeably darker than the original. Now if you have it sort of like here, it will be hard to create a really nice 3D effect because you want some contrast between the two icons. What I recommend is make it pretty dark, but don't overdo it to the point where it's just simply black like this. So just keep it to somewhere around here. That should be good like this. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, now this is where things can get a little bit confusing. So if you're watching, just pay attention very closely. So what we need to do now, guys, is just select the layer at the back, and we are going to just click and hold down shift and bring it in closer to the original icon. Something like this should be fine. Now, as you can see, this curvature right here and the shadow doesn't look natural because it wouldn't look like this in real life. We'd need to just bring this down ever so slightly so that it follows the natural curve of the icon. So as you can see, if we just keep this shadow layer in complete alignment with the icon, it doesn't give off the 3D effect, although it does from the side. The corners just look off. So what we need to do, like I mentioned, is we just need to bring it down ever so slightly and just follow the natural curve of this icon. And as you can see, it sort of looks as if it's a 3D object. Now you may be thinking that there's a little bit right here. As you can see, there is a shadow here which shouldn't be there. So what we can actually do is, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. We are just going to simply click on the original icon like so, press Command or Control T to do that, and we will just simply extend this ever so slightly like so. And now, as you can see, we have a more natural 3D shape occurring. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close the Instagram folder, and as you can see, these two elements should be in the Instagram folder. So let's just highlight them and then put it within the Instagram folder. Then let's just make sure that the original Instagram logo is placed at the top like so. Now let's just close this Instagram folder, and now we can just adjust the whole perspective of this whole group. So what we need to do is press Command or Control T, make sure that the group is selected, and now you can just right click and click on perspective. Once you have done that, now all you need to do is just simply click on a point, and I'm going to click on the bottom right hand corner, and I'm now just going to hold down shift and drag like so. And this is just going to alter the perspective, and you can see the angle which it changes the perspective to. As you can see, it's at 2.7 right now. So what I'm going to do is take it to about something like 3, like this. And now, as you can see, we have adjusted the perspective, but we've also changed the overall shape of the icon. So what I'm going to do is press Command or Control T, as you can see, and I'm just now going to manually adjust and bring this back to what would look like a more square shape. Something like this should be fine. Now we're going to press enter, and as you can see, guys, there's a lot of manual editing, and this is just to help create the illusion. Since we don't have any tools at our disposal, what I'm showing you is how to create that illusion, the illusion of a 3D object. At this stage, guys, it's really just a matter of getting it how you like. So just keep adjusting the perspective until you get the exact angle that you want. So what I'm going to do right now is press Command or Control T once again, and I'm now just going to adjust the perspective until I get something which looks pleasing to the eye. So what I'm going to do now is just increase the perspective on this side, extend it ever so slightly, maybe something like this. And as you can see, we have a nice angle going on. So now what I think I'm going to do is press Command or Control T. I'm just going to extend this a little bit. And again, guys, this is something you're going to have to spend some time with. There's no way you're going to get it right the first time. You're really going to have to adjust things, and you'll get the right result when you spend some time just experimenting with these angles. So what I'm going to do is just keep it at that. Maybe we can also skew it. So press Command or Control T, right click and skew. Let's just bring this to a bit of a slight angle like so. That looks okay. And then we can just press Command or Control on this bottom corner right here, and just maybe we can extend this out ever so slightly. Just bring it more to the right. Yeah, something like this looks pretty good. Now, guys, I am aware that this is something that's very hard to follow along with, but what I would recommend, guys, is that you spend at least 10 to 15 minutes on this step, and you just get a feel for the angles and how you can adjust them to create that 3D effect. And by doing that, guys, you're going to improve your observational skills, and it's really just a benefit for yourself. So don't be discouraged, and I don't even recommend that you copy every single step that I'm doing. Just focus on adjusting the perspective and getting a realistic final result. That's all you need to focus on, and that's how you're going to get the most out of this tutorial. Okay guys, now we're not done yet. Now it's time to further enhance the 3D effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our Instagram group, and I'm now going to place a new layer in between these two layers. So the behind layer and the front layer, we're going to have a layer in between those two layers. So let's just create one above the curves layer like so, and we are now going to paint in some shading just to create a more three-dimensional effect. So before we start, just make sure to create a clipping mask. So hold Alt or Option and click like so. And now let's just zoom in. Make sure to press B for the brush tool and make sure that you have your color set to black. Also make sure that you have a soft brush, so turn your hardness to 0. Okay, and let's now just add some shading between the two layers. And as you can see, we can now create a more three-dimensional effect by adding in some shading. Looks really good. And we can also now just go ahead and decrease the opacity of this effect. So let's take this down to, let's say, 45%. And if we just toggle between before and after, we have now just added some nice shadows to our icon. Now what I now want to do is I want to add an inner glow to this top layer. So I'm just going to click on it like so, double click on the actual icon, and let's now click on inner glow like so. I'm going to have the color set to sort of a nice light gray, something like this. Click OK, and I'll provide you with the hex code for that color. And now let's just increase the opacity, and as you can see, it creates a really nice glow effect. If I just zoom in even further and increase the opacity, as you can see, we have created a really nice glow effect, and it also creates a bit more contrast, which helps with the 3D effect. So I'm just going to keep it to the settings as follows. Let's see if we can increase the size. Let's keep it to something like this. Maybe take this, let's take this to 65 and keep it at that. Click OK, and it's now looking pretty good, guys. What I would probably do at this stage is just go ahead and close this folder and create a duplicate of the folder, and I will now just keep this at the bottom and just change the name of this folder to backup. So we have a backup of everything that we have just done, and we can go back to it and reference it or even change things if we want to. As you can see, guys, this is quite a lengthy process, and it's just about adjusting until you are really happy with the final result. So I think I just need to increase the brightness of the layer behind just a slight touch. So let's just do that. So let's go to curves and just increase the brightness value ever so slightly to something like that. We just want a bit more color to be showing, which looks much better in my opinion. Okay, let's just zoom out. And what I will do now, guys, is close the group, and I will press Command or Control and E, and that's just going to merge everything in that group into one layer. From here, you can even press Command or Control T and make some further adjustments. So for example, maybe you want to try and skew and see how that works. Maybe we can just press Command or Control and just adjust this point right here ever so slightly to something like this. Let's see how that looks before and after. Let's try one more time. Press Command or Control on the point and just bring it out. That's before, that's after. One more time, guys. As you can see, this is a real life example of how much you need to fiddle about with this. So for a tutorial, it's pretty much a nightmare for me to make. Okay, this is where I'm going to keep it for now, and if I do adjust it, it won't be in this video. I'm going to do it behind the scenes because I don't want to waste any more of your time. And this is the final result, guys. So yes, it does take quite a while, as you can see by the length of this tutorial, but it is worth it in the end, and you'll probably learn a lot along the way. Especially when you want to create a 3D thumbnail in the future, you can take this experience and transfer that over, and I'm sure it's going to help you a lot. And now it's just a matter of doing the exact same thing but for the TikTok logo. So what I'm going to do is just hide this Instagram logo, and we will now just go ahead and click on the TikTok logo and make sure that it's visible. What we can do now is, because we saved those guides, as you can see, if you just bring them back by pressing Command or Control semicolon, you can see that we have our guides that we can now use to help scale our TikTok logo. So let's press Command or Control T on the TikTok logo. Let's now just resize this so that it fits perfectly within the guides. Let's just zoom in a little bit to get a better view. Yeah, that's perfect. And now, guys, we are just going to repeat the exact same steps. Now, what I will have for the layer behind is a gray color, because obviously you cannot overlap black with black. Just to give you an example, if I just duplicate this layer, as you can see, there is no separation between the two layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply take this layer, the duplicate, and I will just go ahead and add a solid color adjustment layer. So let's just create a gray color like so, and then just create a clipping mask, clipping the color to the behind layer. Then we'll just place these two layers behind the TikTok layer, and we'll just create the same effect but with a gray color. Yeah, with something like this. I'll go ahead and repeat the same steps, and I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay, now once we reach this stage, what I'm going to do is just merge all these layers in the TikTok group, and don't worry, I've already added it into my backer. I'm just going to press Command or Control E to merge all the layers, and we now need to press Command or Control T, and then we right click and then flip horizontal, because we want the subject to be in the middle with two icons, both one on the left and right. Now since we reflected it, we also reflected the logo, and we don't want to do that. So what we will need to do is select the lasso tool, and we will just make a selection of the logo. So let's just do this carefully, like so, make the selection, and then we can just press Command or Control J to duplicate that selection. Once we have done that, let's just hide that for the moment. We can now go back to our original TikTok layer, press B for the brush tool, and with the color black, we can just paint over this original icon. Then we can just reveal the duplicated layer, and then we can just simply flip it by pressing Command or Control T, right click, and flip horizontal like so. And now we have the logo back in the position it should be in. Now I'm not too fond of the position of this logo, so we can just go ahead and adjust that. So press Command or Control T, and maybe we can just make it match the perspective better. So something like this looks better already. Yeah, something like this looks better. Perfect. And at this stage, we now need to make sure that the perspective of both of these icons are matching and are completely identical in that sense. We also want to make sure that the scale of both of these are accurate. Let's just zoom into the Instagram icon. And what I will do now is I'm just going to click on the line tool. So this can be found under the shapes. So if you just click and then click on the line tool like so. And now we are just going to create some guidelines. Let's actually start up here, create a new layer at the very top. And now let's just create some guides. Something like this, match as well, and then we will just make sure that it's red. So let's just make this red so it's easily visible, and then we can just now align it with the angle. Okay, and once you've done that, now let's go ahead and duplicate this, press Command or Control J, do the same thing, and just press Command or Control T, and we are now just going to move this to the other side, and then just repeat the same steps for the top and bottom. I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay guys, now as you can see, I've created my guides, and this is going to be used as a reference point to help us match the perspective with the TikTok icon. So what we will do now is we are going to group all these layers. So press Command or Control G while highlighting all the line layers, and then we are going to then press Command or Control J to duplicate this group. Now we are going to press Command or Control T, and we are just now going to place this over here. Right, so we're going to drag it over to the TikTok logo. We also need to reflect this, so let's just right click and then flip horizontal. And then what we need to do is we need to drag it to match the icon. So we're going to place it somewhere here for now. And as you can see, the guidelines do not match at all. So what we need to do is make sure that this app icon aligns with the guides so that we know we have the right perspective. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is press enter just to place it where it is. Let's go back to our TikTok logo, and now it's just a matter of pressing Command or Control T and trying to match the perspective. So we might actually increase the scale first of all, maybe to something like this. Maybe we should just hold down Command or Control up here and bring it up ever so slightly. Maybe bring this down a bit. We also need to bring it out ever so slightly, so let's bring this out a bit more. And we're just pressing Command or Control on each point to just move that singular point, as you can see. So it doesn't have to be completely accurate, guys, but you're going to get a pretty accurate result with this method. So let's just go ahead and carry on here. Do the same up here. And as you can see, we're starting to get somewhere, guys. It's quite a fiddly process, but you will get there in the end. To something like this. Maybe we need to bring this up a bit. Yeah, we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Something like this looks just fine. We're going to press enter now, and we are just going to now remove the guides from both of our icons. And these icons now, guys, are completely matching in perspective. Okay guys, so now we can finally move on to the next step, which is going to be to create the tick and the cross. And the tick will be going on the Instagram icon, and the X, the cross, will be going on the TikTok icon. No particular reason for this. I do like TikTok as well, so I have no issues with it. This is simply for example purposes. Okay guys, so here I have two PNGs of both a tick and a cross, and I found these on flaticon.com, and I'll provide you with the links to these PNGs in the description down below. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring these into my document. Let's place them here. Let's just make sure that this is at the top, like so. Perfect. Let's also just hide these for the moment. And what I'm going to do is quickly just add a color overlay to them. So let's just go to color overlay, make this white, click OK, and do the exact same for the cross. Perfect. And then we can just quickly right click and rasterize the layer style. Rasterize layer style for this one as well. Let's now start off with the green icon. So let's just hide this cross. Let's just keep this aside right now, the tick. And let's now go to get a circle. So we're going to get an ellipse, down shift to keep the proportions accurate. And we are now just going to add a gradient overlay to this circle. So just press enter, double click, and we will click on gradient overlay. So I'm just going to adjust the colors. So we want this to be green. So we will just go ahead and do that. So for the location, this is set to 50. I'm going to change this to a sort of darker green, something like that should be fine. Yeah, maybe something like that. Perfect. And then for the one set to location 100, I'm going to change this to a lighter green. So something like this should be fine. Let's click OK. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to add a stroke to this circle. So let's click on stroke. And I just want to change the color of this to a light green, something like the color you see at the top here. So let's have that set and click OK. We want to keep the size of the stroke to about 4 pixels, and we'll keep the position to inside. Let's then go ahead and click on outer glow. And now let's just add a nice green glow with the blending mode set to linear dodge add. And if you want to copy the exact same result, just follow the settings you see on screen. I'm just going to click OK now, and what we will do now is I'm just going to add this tick within the icon. So let's just place this above. Let's then go ahead and press Command or Control T, and let's just resize this to fit inside the icon. And then guys, it's really just about centering it until you are happy with how it looks. I think that looks pretty good right there. What I'm going to do now is just quickly, maybe we can just add a outer glow to the actual white just to enhance the glow effect. Yeah, something like that works. You can play around with this step guys, there's no right or wrong, just do whatever looks good to you. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing but for the cross. So we'll use a darker red, a lighter red, and then we can just add some glows, and it's pretty simple. So I'll leave you guys to do that. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've just completed my icons, and I've actually grouped them as well and color coded the group just to keep organized. What I would suggest at this point is just to have a duplicate of these put into a backup folder, which we have right here. So let's just go ahead and highlight these two groups, and then we'll just press Alt or Option and drag and take this into the backup folder, just because we're going to be adjusting the perspective of these icons, so we want to have a backup if we need to access one. Okay guys, so I've just placed my tick and cross to the side, and I've now brought back our icons, so I've just made them visible. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to place them in the center of the two icons. So let us go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do first before we start that is I'm just going to highlight both of the groups, and I'm going to press Command or Control T, and I just want to scale this down because this is too large. We'll keep it to something like this. That looks pretty good to me. Let's start off with the tick now. Let's press Command or Control T, and let's just bring this in the center. And you'll see that obviously the perspective doesn't match, but we're going to fix that in just a moment. So let's just do the same for the X. Put it somewhere here. That looks pretty good. And now let's just come back to the tick, and let's just press Command or Control T, and let's just now right click and click on perspective. And now let's just try and shift the perspective a little bit. So let's just try and do this as best as we can. Yeah, maybe we can bring this out a little bit more as well. Cool stuff. And then it's just a matter of going back in, pressing Command or Control T, and then just pressing Control and bringing this to the actual line. So bringing this point, this white point, on the actual line of the icon. So this line on the icon. And that looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and do the same for the TikTok icon. Let's go ahead and just press Command or Control T, right click, click on perspective, shift it a bit to this side, bring this out a little bit, and then we can go ahead and press Command or Control, click on the point and bring it to be level with the black line. So this would be the line right here. Just want it to be level, and so it's following the perspective of the app icon. Press enter, and now let's just have a look at what we have created. I think that's pretty good for now. So we're just going to leave it at that. And again guys, you can always adjust this afterwards. So don't think that anything is set in stone. If you don't like the look of anything, you can adjust it at any point until you are satisfied. Okay, so now we can really bring the thumbnail together. So what I have right here is a background image which I found on FreePic, and I'll link this in the description down below. So let's just drag this into our canvas like so, and we can just toggle the color fill off. So we take the gray color fill off, and now let's just press Command or Control T and scale this because we do not want the floor to be visible. So let's just scale it up. So let's just increase the size to something like this. This looks pretty good to me. Yeah. Once that is done, we now need to focus on adding in the subject. Now you can use any subject that you want. In this case, I am using an AI generated image of Iman Gadzhi, which I found on a site, and I'll link that in the description down below. Just make sure that if you're using this image, you do not use it for any commercial purposes. And now let's just bring our icons to the front. So as you can see, they're behind the layers right now that we have on screen. So let's just go ahead and bring everything to the front. And now it's just a matter of placing things on the screen. So what I'm going to do, let's just start off with the Instagram and the tick. So you want to take these two together, press Command or Control T, and then we can just move them on screen. So let's just place them somewhere on screen. So you can fiddle about with this and spend as much time as you please. I think this looks good right here. We'll keep it at that. And let's now do the same thing for the TikTok logo. So click on the TikTok logo and then press Command or Control on the cross to highlight that as well, and then let's just do the exact same thing. Something like that looks good. Yeah, we'll keep it to that for now. Now what I'm going to do, just use your rulers once again just to make sure that everything is level. So let's just do that really quickly. Yeah, as you can see, let me just remove this guideline. As you can see, it's not completely level, so let's just go back to our TikTok icon and let's just bring this down ever so slightly. So something like this. Perfect. Okay, now that it's level, it's really just about managing the negative space here. And once you're happy, we can then move on to the next step, which is to add some light and glows. Okay, so now it's time to add some glows. And yep, I just increased the size of these icons ever so slightly. So again, guys, just make sure to look at your canvas. And if you think there could be anything that could be resized or improved, you can go ahead and do that. So now let's focus on adding in the light. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to create a new layer at the very top. So let's just create a new layer. I'm now going to press B for the brush tool, and I'm going to increase the size of the brush. We want this relatively large, like so. Something like this should be fine. Yep, something like this. And what we will do now, guys, is we are going to zoom in. We'll start off with the Instagram icon, and we are going to just source a color from the Instagram icon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to source this purplish pink, and what I will do now is paint in a light dab. So just click once like so, and make sure that you have a soft brush when you're doing this. Now I'm going to go ahead and source a sort of yellowish orange like so, and I'm going to do the exact same thing but on this side. So just click like that. Once that is done, guys, let's now change the blending mode to linear dodge add and change the opacity to 60% like so. And now let's place our tick layer above the glows that we've just painted in so that it doesn't interfere with the green color. Okay, now it's time to do the exact same thing but for the TikTok icon. So what we will do, just create a new layer at the very top. Let's press B for the brush tool, increase the size of the brush to something like that, and let's just source the colors on the TikTok logo. So what you see right here is a light blue and a sort of pinkish red, and we can use those colors and do the same thing we did for the Instagram logo. So let's just zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take this light blue and let's just go ahead and create the same effect. So do this one, and then let's go ahead and source the pink. Maybe we can just hide this layer to get the original color, get the right pink, and now we'll just put this back, and now we'll just go ahead and paint right here. Now let's change the blending mode to linear dodge add, and I think we may need to take the opacity down even more. I don't think 50% will be enough, or even 60%. I can see probably about 47% being the right amount of glow to add on this side, and it's looking really good. And now let's just add a bit of soft light on the subject, just to make it look as if the icon and the light coming from the icon is shining on the subject, just to create a bit of realism. So let's go ahead and do that. So click on the subject layer, let's go ahead and click on the adjustment layers and click on solid color. Then we can just source a color. So let's just take this pink right here, let's click OK, and let's now just add a clipping mask, clipping this color to the subject. So hold Alt or Option and click in between the two layers to create a clipping mask. Now let's change the blending mode to screen, and let's invert this layer mask. So click within the layer mask and press Command or Control I to invert the layer mask. Now let's press B for the brush tool, decrease the size of our brush ever so slightly. Let's take the flow to about 60%, and let's now start painting in some light. So just a couple clicks, a couple dabs, whatever you want to call it, just to give that more realistic effect. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, and then what we're going to do is just simply take this layer now, press Command or Control J, and we are now going to click within this layer mask and then press Command or Control A. That's just going to highlight the whole layer, and then press Backspace. And what that's going to do is it's going to start us off with another layer that we can add some glows to. So I want to add some yellow glows down here. So let's now add the clipping mask, change the color of this to a yellow. So let's just double click on the color and source this color. And now let's just do the same thing. Let's paint some light over here. As you can see on the actual subject, there's already yellow light on it, so we don't actually need to overdo it. We just need to paint a little bit of light here. That looks pretty good to me. Now again, let's just do the exact same thing. Press Command or Control J, duplicate the layer, click within the layer mask, press Command or Control A, and then press Backspace, add a clipping mask. And now let's take this light blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on the layer, and I'm just going to click on this light blue. Let's now go ahead and do the same thing. So click on the layer mask and let's add some blue light to the subject. Now I don't really like how the light blue is sort of shining on the subject. It doesn't really look too good. So I'm not going to overdo it on the light blue side. Probably keep it very minimal. Let's go ahead now, again, duplicate, add the clipping mask, remove everything from the layer mask, and let's change the color to a pinkish red like that, and we will do the same thing. So let's go ahead and click within the layer mask, press B for the brush tool, and let's now just sort of paint some light over here. Like so. Perfect. That's all we need to do, guys. Okay, now before I forget, let's make sure that this cross is above the painted glow that we just added in. So let's go ahead and just bring this to the top. Like so. Perfect. Now guys, it's time for camera raw filter. So what I'm going to do is just click on the top layer, which we already have, press Command, Option, Shift and E, and that's just going to merge all the layers into one single layer. Let's then go ahead and convert this into a smart object. So right click and convert to smart object, and then go on filter and click on camera raw filter. Now guys, let's bring this thumbnail to life. So just zoom out a little bit. Let's start off with the light section. So let's increase the exposure ever so slightly. Maybe we'll take this to +10. Let's increase the contrast. So increase the contrast. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's sort of increase the contrast even more. I really like how that looks. Maybe we can take this all the way to 30. I think 30 looks good. Let's play around with the highlights just ever so slightly. Maybe we'll take this up to +10. Not too much. Let's work with the shadows here. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, let's bring this down to maybe -8. Looks good. Let's play with the whites. We can bring the whites up ever so slightly, maybe to +4, not too much. Let's also work with the blacks. We could take this to -5. Okay, moving into color. Let's now go to color and let's see if we can adjust the temperature. No, I'm not interested in doing that. Let's increase the vibrance ever so slightly. There's already a lot of color here, guys, so we don't want to overdo it with the vibrance. Let's keep it to 10. The saturation as well, I'm probably going to increase this by maybe 1 or 2 points. Nothing more than that. Yeah, maybe we can take this to 1. That looks pretty good to me. Let's go into effects now. Let's increase the texture. So let's take the texture up to 30. I like how that looks. It looks pretty good to me. Let's increase the clarity to plus, let's say plus 15, looks pretty good. Yeah, plus 15 looks pretty good. Let's also add a vignette. Now, as you can see, we already have some sort of dark corners, so we don't really need to do too much with the vignette. Let's just add a very slight vignette. Something like this should be fine. Yeah, -8 should be fine. Let's just toggle between everything before and after. Yeah, that looks good. Let's increase the grain. So let's take some grain up to about 12. Yeah, that looks really nice. Let's now move into curve. And I think I'm just going to take the highlights up ever so slightly. So let's make a point near the highlights area and we'll just bring up the highlights ever so slightly to something like this. That's before, that's after. Yeah, just bring some brightness back into the subject's face. Okay, let's now go into detail. Let's increase the sharpening. So let's take this to 30. Yeah, that looks really nice. Let's now just adjust the exposure, make it a little bit brighter. Let's take this up to 0.20. And as you can see, that made a lot of a difference. So I think that's where I'm going to keep it, guys. And now we can click OK. And there you have it, guys, an Iman Gadzhi style thumbnail. Now this is a pretty long one, but I'm sure you've learned a lot in this tutorial. Now if you would like to see more tutorials just like this one, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this video, and until next time, peace.